8 years ago today, on August 13th, 2018, a pregnant mother and her two little girls disappeared from their home in Frederick, Colorado. Her husband, Chris Watts, stood in front of television cameras pleading for his family to come home. But there was something the public didn't know. Chris Watts already knew exactly where they were, because the husband and father asking America for help finding his family was the man who had murdered them. And now, 8 years later, Chris Watts is back in the headlines for a reason that has stunned people all over again. He reportedly wants to get married. Shanann Watts was 34 years old. She and her husband Chris lived in Frederick, Colorado with their two daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, known as Cece. Shanann was also about 15 weeks pregnant with the couple's third child, a boy they plan to name Nico. From the outside, the Watts family could appear to have the suburban American life many people dream about: a large home, two beautiful children, another baby on the way. But behind closed doors, their marriage was deteriorating. Chris Watts had begun an affair with a co-worker, and Shanann had become increasingly concerned that something was wrong with her husband. Shanann returned home from a business trip during the early morning hours of August 13th. Later that day, one of Shanann's friends became worried when she couldn't reach her. She went to the Watts home and contacted police. When officers arrived, Chris eventually entered the house with them. Shanann was nowhere to be found. Neither were Bella or Cece, but Shanann's phone, purse, and other belongings were still there. Her vehicle was still in the garage. Something didn't make sense. Then came one of the most infamous television interviews in modern true crime. Standing outside his home, Watts asked for his wife and daughters to return. To anyone watching at that moment, he was supposedly a desperate husband and father. But investigators were already beginning to focus on him. Within days, Watts agreed to take a polygraph test. He failed. Investigators confronted him, and eventually his story began to collapse. At first, Watts tried to blame Shanann for the deaths of their daughters. Investigators did not accept that story. The truth was far worse. Watts ultimately admitted responsibility for killing Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. Shanann had been strangled. Bella and Cece were suffocated. Their bodies were transported to an oil site where Watts worked. Shanann was buried in a shallow grave. The bodies of Bella and Cece were placed inside separate oil tanks. One of the questions that continues to surround this case is simply, why? Watts was having an affair with a co-worker and had been talking about separating from Shanann. Prosecutors later portrayed the murders as Watts attempting to erase his existing family and begin a new life. Instead of getting divorced, instead of walking away, he annihilated his family, and then attempted to behave as though they had simply vanished. That contrast between the man America saw pleading on television and what investigators discovered helped make the Watts case one of the most infamous family murder cases in recent American history. In November 2018, Watts pleaded guilty to 9 criminal counts, including multiple counts of first-degree murder and unlawful termination of a pregnancy. By pleading guilty, he avoided the possibility of the death penalty. He was sentenced to multiple life terms without the possibility of parole. Watts would never again live as a free man. Because of security concerns, he was later transferred from Colorado to the Dodge Correctional Institution in Waupun, Wisconsin, where he remains incarcerated today, and that brings us to today. 8 years after the murders, Chris Watts is 41 years old and remains incarcerated at Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. Reports about his prison life describe him as largely isolated from the general prison population because of the notoriety. This was Tales from the Tombs NJ with another story for you. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons. This allows YouTube to view who watches my stuff and direct my videos to the right genre. It doesn't cost anything.